Hi, I'm Anderson, and I know the Eiffel Tower is real. Okay, I know that. I don't need convincing. I know it's real. But what if I didn't know? I've never been to Paris. I've never seen the Eiffel Tower with my own eyes, certainly. I know it's real because I've seen it depicted in the media, videos, photos. I've read about it. That's how I know lots of things are real. The Grand Canyon, Alaska, and it's also how I know certain things have happened. I mean, I wasn't personally there for the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, but I know they happened. I know they existed in reality because I've seen the footage.
Same for the '09 inauguration, the assassination of Lee Harvey Oswald, and that time Vladimir Putin threw an awesome hockey-themed birthday party.
What? I want to go!
I know all that stuff happened because I saw it, right? Kinda. This is not a pipe. Well, I mean, yeah, it is. I'm looking at it. This is a pipe. This is definitely a pipe. But could I stuff it with tobacco? Well, I could try, but it probably wouldn't work because this is not a pipe. Even though that when you and I look at this image, we perceive a pipe, technically it's a representation. A piece of media created by someone to depict a pipe. It's not a pipe itself. This is actually a painting called The Treachery of Images. It was created by Rene Magritte in 1929, and it brings up an interesting point. Because if this is not a pipe, then I'm not talking to you. I'm not even on your screen. In reality, I'm probably in my apartment, enjoying my alone time. But it also means that this isn't Barack Obama being inaugurated. Now, am I saying that Barack Obama was not inaugurated in 2009, and in fact the thing on that stage is a CG deepfake AI hologram designed to satiate the masses and maintain reptilian rule? No. But what I am saying is that most of your notions of truth or reality beyond your own experience are constructed from media, through information that you gained in books and news and films, but much like this pipe, they're just representations, symbols. From these symbols, we derive meaning through a process called semiosis. And this is not to say that any of these representations are false, necessarily, just simply that they aren't reality. Which is weird. I mean, it's a concept that feels simultaneously both too difficult to wrap one's head around and too simplistic to necessitate saying out loud. For example, if you pointed out the state of North Carolina on a map and said, "This is North Carolina," and then in reply somebody said to you, "No, it's not, it's a map," you'd probably look at them like they were stupid. But as mind-bendingly obtuse as that idea sounds, it's true. The map of the territory is not the territory itself. And that's incredibly important, because these representations, these pieces of media that we use to shape our worldviews and determine what is truth and reality, are created. Fabricated, even. I mean, somebody made that map, and there's certainly nothing wrong with expanding your worldview via these media fabrications. For most of us, it's our only choice. Without representations of reality beyond our own subjective experience, we would be in isolation. Media gives people a glorious window into the outside world. But windows have frames, and sometimes the glass is smudged.
Fidelity. It's a term used to describe the quality of a description or translation, defining its correspondence with the original. Exactness. Fidelity is important. In the first chapter of Walter Lippmann's 1922 book, Public Opinion, he illustrates the disconnect between the world as it is and the world as we know it. He describes an island in the ocean, inhabited by a few Englishmen, Frenchmen, and Germans in the year 1914. At that time, most people across the globe relied on telegram to relay communications over distance. However, no cables reached this island. The only source of communication with the mainland was a British mail steamer that came about once every 60 days. In September of that year, the island's inhabitants were especially eager for the ship's appearance, as the last newspapers detailed the approaching trial of French socialite Madame Caillot for the shooting of Gaston Calmette. With this in mind, the entire colony assembled at the dock as the ship arrived, eager to hear from the captain what the verdict had been. they learned that for over 6 weeks now, those of them who were English and those of them who were French had been fighting on behalf of the sanctity of treaties against those of them who were Germans. For 6 strange weeks, they had acted as if they were friends, when in fact, they were enemies. World War I had broken out. But for those 6 weeks, that simply wasn't the case for the people on that island. For those 6 weeks, business deals were made, investments were considered, and futures were planned, in the belief that the world that they knew was indeed the world that existed. Men were writing books describing that world. They trusted the pictures in their heads.
The danger of this disparity would present itself again 4 years later, when after the needless slaughter of thousands, those on the edge of Europe's battlefield would learn that the war had ended 5 days ago. The realities and the lives of those in the trenches were at the mercy of the media available to them at the time and its fidelity. And although the medium of media has changed since then, becoming faster and more available, depending on who and more importantly where you are, its fidelity isn't necessarily any better. If you're not living in a country that engages in the active censorship of information, then you're probably stuck sifting through the uncurated, misinformation-laced media environment of the free press and internet.
Hey, you!
You're always looking out of a window. And I could order the construction of the largest, most crystal clear window that has ever existed. The platonic ideal of a window. But I still wouldn't be able to see everything out of it. I mean, no matter how hard I press my face against the glass, I wouldn't be able to see the door that's directly to the right, or the top of my hallway ceiling. And I certainly wouldn't know what it looks like outside on the opposite side of my apartment. There's always inherent limitation and perspective. There's always disparity. Okay, but what if you were able to become a billionaire? And then you bought a private helicopter and you hired a team of futurists to predict the time and place of major world events. That way you could witness them in real time. I mean, you could eliminate the fidelity gap from your knowledge altogether. Okay. Yeah, that could work. Except just as there are gaps between our informational diets and reality, it's possible that there are gaps between our senses and the physical world itself. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but it's possible you're a brain in a vat.
What if someone or something removed your brain from your head, placed it in a vat of life-sustaining liquid, and then connected its neurons to the wires of a supercomputer so powerful that it could replicate the electrical signals that your brain would typically receive? There would be no discernible difference between the experience of consciousness in the vat and the experience of consciousness in a normal human skull, meaning that you, right now as you watch this video, cannot say with any certainty that you aren't a brain in a vat rather than a brain in a skull. And accompanying that undeniable possibility is the fact that your senses, memories, beliefs, and knowledge are false. So even if you could manage to get the funds together to take a French vacation and touch the Eiffel Tower with your own fingers, there's still a 50% theoretical probability that you aren't in Paris but are instead sitting on a counter in a mug of juice.
But say you weren't in a mug of juice. Say you were in a human skull for sure. Would that make your surroundings definitively more real? I mean, who's to say that your friends, your mom, and the cashier at the 7-Eleven aren't all pee zombies? Now I know what you're thinking. Ew, gross. And you'd be right, but not because of anything to do with urine. Pee zombie is short for psychological zombie, and it's a thought experiment that presents a being indistinguishable from a human in every single way, but without consciousness, sentience, or qualia. Qualia are the experiences that we have, and they're often sensory. Seeing the color red is a common example, or hearing a G note on a bass guitar, the taste of corn on the cob, thirst, hunger, pain. Our emotional experiences, like rage or depression, are made up of qualia, and qualia are subjective. You and I may both see the color red, but our experience of red, our individual qualia, may be entirely different.
So even though a psychological zombie may act as though it has qualia, complaining of how hungry it is or jumping when you prick it with a pin, to the psychological zombie, it's a simple call and response. The input of a pinprick results in the outward expression of pain. However, the pee-zombie experiences nothing. If, scientifically, a being such as a pee-zombie could indeed exist, it disproves the notion that physical substance is all that's required to explain consciousness.
Does this mean that everyone around you is an imposter? A P-zombie without consciousness, incapable of experiencing anything at all? Well, maybe. You'll certainly never know. So, next time you see your mom, give her a few jabs with old safety scissors. Even if she does start screaming in pain, you'll know better than to take it at face value. When talking about qualia and P-zombies, it raises some questions about artificial intelligence. I mean, if a P-zombie is just an entity that's supposed to take in sensory inputs, process them, and then give an output that mirrors human behavior, intelligence, and emotion, well, I mean, that sounds like a lot of AI that's currently in development today. So maybe P-zombies won't be theoretical for very much longer. Spooky. But it's important to consider that although you can't prove your mom isn't a P-zombie, you don't know for sure that she is, and that makes stabbing her with scissors unethical. Similarly, although AI may be expressing the appearance of consciousness without the corresponding internal experience, we don't know for sure that that's the case. So does that make it unethical to deny these intelligences the same rights that we afford other seemingly conscious beings? And of course, you could say, oh, well, that's silly. I'm not going to treat my laptop like it's a living, thinking, feeling thing. I don't have any definite proof that it's conscious. And you would be right, but you also don't have any definite proof that your friends, family, and loved ones are conscious. And if I pulled the plug on one of them, I don't think you would be too happy. Our empirical knowledge, the things that we know to be true about the physical world through our senses, gives us a fantastic window and allows us to do miraculous things for humanity. We can develop biotechnologies and medicines and fight hunger like never before. But it's not unlimited. And when it comes to unlocking the underlying mysteries of our experience, it's hard to see how these physical facts connect to our subjectivity, our individual consciousness. I'd like to leave you here today with an idea from philosopher David J. Chalmers, which he explores in his book, A Conscious Mind. Maybe consciousness is an irreducible entity, similar to that of time, mass, or space. A phenomenon of our existence that exists fundamentally and can't arise or be explained through the sum of a brain's physical processes. And with that in mind, one can extrapolate a pretty beautiful concept. You and I may experience the irreducible entity of time differently. Its presence and its passing and our individual experiences varied. But there is no my time or your time, it just is. And maybe consciousness is the same way. My conscious experience of red and your conscious experience of red is completely subjective, but it's not something that's mine or yours, it's something that we're all experiencing collectively, as a whole. Until next time, thanks for watching.